I didn't want to be nosy. That's something I told myself. It was one of those weeks where I'd been up too late every night, scrolling through forums and old Reddit threads, a little bit bored and half looking for a hit of adrenaline to keep me awake. I'd used Tor before, mostly for stupid curiosities, censored articles, weird archives, stuff like that. Nothing that made me feel sick. That night, I clicked a link someone had posted in the thread and said, "Just watch." It was blunt and lazy, and that's the exact thing I was looking for. It's the exact thing that actually pulls people in. The stream loaded in a tiny window. At first, it looked like nothing. An empty room, a single light bulb swinging too slowly, and a chair in the middle of the floor. The frame was grainy, the kind of low resolution you'd expect from a webcam that's been used too long. I remember thinking it was one of those art pieces where someone sat in silence for hours and people watched. It was the worst possible art. Then a man stepped in the frame. He wore a ski mask and he moved with the kind of calm you only see in people who have done something many times. He was dragging somebody behind him, really thin, wrapped in a blanket, and he set them down into the chair. The person's hands and feet were bound, and the blanket didn't hide the tremble in their shoulders. If I'd seen it in the movie, I would have turned it off instantly. But the difference between the movie and that small flickering window was the chat running on the side. It was active. Not with usual jokey comments, but with bids. Real numbers of Bitcoin, typed by people who weren't using avatars like LOLman69. They were using handles that looked like they'd been created to be anonymous and serious. They were bidding on what the man should do next. I remember the first command like a splinter in my skin, and it said, "Break their fingers, 0.05. The masked man glanced at a small phone on the table, read the message. It went to the victim's hand. The sounds were muffled, clumsy pops I couldn't identify at first. The person in the chair started to scream. Not a long cinematic scream, but the short, high animal-like scream that humans make when something bends the wrong way. I shut my laptop, but that didn't help. I could still hear the echo of those pops in my head. For the next minute, I just sat there, my ears ringing and my heart sliding across the floor like ice. Yeah, that sounds a little dramatic, but that's just how I felt. I told myself I would never go back. And I told myself I also had seen enough. But curiosity is its own kind of, you can say, hunger. And 2 nights later, I found that site again. This time the stream was labeled the same. And it was worse. A new person, different room, same quiet efficiency. The chat had a rhythm. It was suggestions, bids, and confirmations. People typed things like they were ordering food. The masked man read them aloud, almost as if he were checking off an owner's manual. Sometimes he laughed. Sometimes he paused to take a sip of coffee. This dude was a psychopath. I told myself I should report it. I tried to find a law enforcement link, an organization that handled human trafficking, anything. But the internet is a series of doors behind more doors. And every report form I filled out asked for attachments or required me to verify my identity. The stream was in a place where contact felt like a trap. Somewhere in the corner of my mind, a small and rational voice said, "If you report this, you'll be linked. If you're linked, they'll know you watched." 3 weeks later, an email arrived. No header, no signature, just a short sentence in plain text. And it said, "We saw you watching." I remember staring at it like someone had hit me. My hands went cold. There was no attachment, no IP address, no threat spelled out, nothing. Just those 5 words. The only thing they had to do was hit send. And somehow they had an address to hit. I called the police. They were kind but methodical. They took the email, told me they would forward it to the cyber units. They also told me gently and not unreasonably, that the internet is full of hoaxes and copycats and people trying to scare each other. Maybe it was a prank, I don't know. Maybe it was spam. But when you tell someone you saw it, they have to look behind the curtain. For days I slept with the lights on. I changed my passwords. I bought a cheap motion sensing camera and pointed it at the street. I moved furniture to block the windows that faced the alley. None of it felt like enough. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd feel that little spike of panic that maybe tonight I'd get another message. The emails never came again. The camera never picked up anything out of the ordinary. Sometimes, when I'm alone and the house is quiet, the idea that there is a live frame somewhere that might be playing and taking bids and that someone could have seen me watching feels like a slow and constant itch. People have a million reasons to go into the dark parts of the internet. I told myself I was just curious. Part of me still thinks that that's true. The rest of me thinks that curiosity is what got someone into a chair in a windowless room. Knowing that I was there to see it, knowing I witnessed a human being treated like performance, feels like really an index card I can't shred. I wish I never went on the dark web. This happened a few years ago. It was during one of those months where the bills seemed to line up like crazy. I was scraping by checking Craigslist and odd job boards. And when a friend told me there were opportunities on places that weren't indexed by Google, I listened. I didn't want to though. I told myself I'd only look for legitimate sounding offers. The post said data entry. No sane person would be proud to admit they found. It promised $500 a week to start, a decent amount for a few hours a day. That's how it hooks you, with a small mercy at a time when you're desperate enough to consider the impossible. The initial contact felt normal, a short email telling me to set up a secure file transfer and to sign a simple confidentiality form. They said everything was routine and that I'd be paid through the third-party escrow wallet. It felt shady in a familiar way, like someone offering you a discount on a knockoff bag because they know you're embarrassed to say yes. But my rent was due, and I told myself it would stop being weird as soon as I got my first paycheck. The first batch of files arrived encrypted. They looked like spreadsheets at first glance, but when I opened them, the rows weren't straightforward numbers. They were names, dates, phone numbers, and a list of routes, pickup times, drop-off coordinates that led to ports and industrial complexes. Attached to each row were scanned passports and what looked like medical records. It was like allergies, last known medications, notations about who could be trusted. There were mugshots in one folder, but the pictures were grainy and old, like they'd been copied from police records. I paused the work. I told them I was uncomfortable. The reply came back almost instantly when it said, "We need you to transcribe verbatim." The message said, "We can't afford mistakes." That's when they sent a screenshot with my address at the top of the list. It was my address, typed on a line like some kind of delivery label. I stopped. I closed the laptop. I told myself I'd just walk away, and that this was a scam and that people often include personal info in emails to scare you into compliance. But then a picture showed up of my house at night, taken from an angle that matched the dead space behind the garbage bins out back. I did the only stupid thing I could think of. I typed back, "I quit. I didn't sign up for this." The reply was shorter. "Good choice." But it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like a checkmark next to a name on a list. Weeks after, I felt watched. My trash was gone the morning after I changed the lock. A delivery man I didn't remember ordering from left the package at my door. that contained nothing but a folded piece of paper with a single number on it. I would see cars idling at the corner at odd hours, and every time I looked, they'd be gone in a blink. I would get odd calls where someone would breathe for a long time and then just hang up. I tried to tell people, but there's a vocabulary program when you need help with something you found online. Friends thought I was being paranoid. The police filed a report and then asked if I wanted to press charges. To press charges, they said, I needed more than a screenshot. I needed to trace the emails to prove the origin. The longer I wrestled with it, the more I realized how slick the whole operation might have been. They could be halfway around the world using proxies and VPNs, or they could be 2 blocks over. I moved out 2 months later. I took more than I needed and left most of my life behind. Every time I make a new friend, there's a pause in the conversation where I decide whether to tell them the truth. I still check my phone at odd hours. My credit alerts ping differently now. I watch every unusual activity like a hawk. What haunts me isn't the photos or emails. It's how easily I could have been dragged back into it. How a desperation for money left a small opening that someone could find and exploit. I sleep with windows closed and curtains drawn. I keep old invoices and receipts in a box, because if anything happens again, I want to be ready to show the pattern. The worst part is that I don't know how many people took those files and turned them into a movement, into trains and cars and borders crossed. I don't know who those passport photos belong to, or whether typing addresses into a spreadsheet is the difference between a life that keeps going and a life that ends in an unmarked place. All I know is that the deep web once offered me a job, and for a moment I almost took it. But those people were weird. Back in the day, I was you can say, very daring person. So my friend dared me to do something. And that's how most stupid things start. We were on the couch, beers, sweating on the coffee table, and we started a game of click this and don't tell anyone. So we opened up Tor, and a page loaded with the single word, faces. It was the kind of tag meant to bait curiosity and nothing else. My friend snorted. Come on, click it. What's the worst that can happen? The gallery was slow to load. At first, it looked like a collage of profile pictures. People smiling in parks, a kid with a baseball cap, something holding a coffee cup, just stuff like that. Typical internet stuff, like stolen photos, scraps of social media, and I don't know, it was just a lot of stuff. I scrolled with that detached interest you have in something that's not yours. Like reading the name of a person on the side of a bus. Then the picture shifted. Faces had bruises that hadn't been there for a moment before. Lips split, eyes raw, stuff like that. Some had fresh tape marks around their wrist. It was the kind of thing that makes you feel trapped behind glass. You can see the harm, but cannot touch the people in the frame. My stomach dropped. I started to scroll faster, and that's when I saw it. One of the thumbnails was a photo I've never posted anywhere. It was me, walking home from work with my head down and my hoodie up and earbuds in. The exact angle and timestamp matched Thursday 2 months earlier. My hands went cold on the mouse. I blinked, thinking maybe my friend had swapped something on his phone. I clicked the image to enlarge it, half expecting it to be a trick. The image was clean, high resolution too. There were no tags, no watermarks, nothing. It was just me. Not a bad recreation or grainy lookalike. It was my nose, the mole on the left side of my jaw, the way I hold my phone with my thumb resting on the screen. It was a private moment that I never shared. Dude, my friend said, He was quiet for the rest of the time since we were kids. He scrolled back, looking up at me. His face went into an odd shape. This is where did you get this? I didn't, I said, which was both true and false. I hadn't uploaded it. I hadn't texted it to anyone, nothing. I hadn't posted it, but apparently someone had taken it. They had taken a picture of me. We both closed the browser like it would erase it. For the next week, I checked the route I took home. I tried to map cameras, windows, any place where someone could have taken a photo without me noticing. I'd always been careful. I walked in well-lit areas and varied my route sometimes. But it all felt performative now, like someone who saw a rhythm and decided to play it like a metronome. That's the terrifying part. A camera doesn't need malice. A camera just needs access. A person who watches for patterns and then collects images becomes a catalog. The gallery had dozens of faces, some identifiable, some not. The metadata on the images might have been stripped, or maybe it never existed. But the fact that my face was there told me I wasn't alone. A few nights later, I found a business card tucked under my windshield wiper. It had nothing on it but a single phrase: "We see you." There was no return number, no logo, just that sentence in plain black ink. I kept it in my wallet like a splinter under a fingernail. I tried blocking every outlet I could think of. Old accounts I barely used were closed. I changed my route again. I bought a little umbrella camera, and I carried it in my bag, telling myself it was paranoia, but also insisting that it was necessary. The first time someone followed me that way, I saw them, a silhouette at the end of the block, then disappearing. I called the police. They asked for evidence. I didn't really have any. I had a card and a shaky video of a car turning the corner at the same time as me. It wasn't much. Weeks turned into months. The fear slackened until it became a background hum. Some nights, I'd forget about it entirely. And other nights, I would dream of cameras. The gallery still haunts me in a different way now. More like a psychological bruise than an open wound. I still wonder who created it, who made that, who took a picture of me, and why they picked those faces, and what was their end game. Were they collecting for pleasure, for research, for something darker? Does someone somewhere have a wall with my face pinned to it, like an insect in a display case? Once, in a quiet, stupid moment, I typed my own name into a search engine, with every variation I could think of. Nothing turned up that indicated a gallery, a forum, or a user tagging me. That's the worst kind of proof. Absence. It suggests a system that doesn't want to be found. I told myself time would make it smaller. It didn't. It just made me smarter about small things. The timing of my walks, the angle I hold my phone, the way I check behind me, all that stuff. Little rituals that make you feel safe. Sometimes safety is a kind of armor you wear in public, and you take it off when you sleep. The photo in that gallery is probably still out there. The last time I checked, months later, the link was dead. The pages sometimes blink out and come back with new content, like a billboard that updates at random. I can't prove anyone ever watched me systematically. I can't prove whether that picture was a one-off or the last frame of something or someone, I don't know, that was watching me for a while. What I can prove is this: someone took a private picture of me, turned it into a thing, and put it where people could look and judge and catalog. I still feel exposed in ways that don't make sense until you try to sleep and imagine a stranger pointing a lens at your exact moments, saving them and smiling. Don't ever check out the dark web, because you might find something that you don't want to see.